is your worship journey? What's your worship story?
Okay, wow, well, it's quite sort of long-winded, so I'll try and not maybe take all night about it. I actually lived in Barnsley till I was 18, and then I went to university in Scotland, in Glasgow. Wasn't a Christian at that point, and then I became a Christian halfway through my second year. So I was 19 and a half, I think, and started after sort of searching for a church in Scotland, in Glasgow, for about 6 months, just going each Sunday by myself to try different churches out. I ended up, God led me to Glasgow Elim. Yeah, so the worship journey started there. I just loved to worship. I never thought of myself as someone that could sing. I was musical, I guess, and I knew that I could sing in tune, but I didn't think I had a very strong voice. I didn't think that I would never sing in front of anybody, for sure, but I just loved to worship God. When I became a Christian, I just loved, particularly I've got lovely memories of being in my flat in Glasgow by myself, and the first thing I'd do when I'd get up was just sing. You know, I was learning all these new songs from the church and just singing my heart out when no one else or my flatmates weren't in. And I just remember praying to God one day, Lord, would you give me a voice to just worship you so it doesn't, you know, sound terrible. You know, I didn't think, oh, I want to be in a worship team, I want to be anything. I just wanted to be able to sing my heart out and it sound half decent. And I remember just praying that. And it wasn't an overnight thing, but I remember the guy that led the worship team, Eric Scott, at the time, he grabbed me one of the services at the end on one Sunday morning, and he just said, Georgie, would you join the worship team? And I went, what? Talking about? I've never done anything like that in my life. Why do you want me? And he said, well, I just love how you express yourself in worship, and I've been seeing from the platform how you worship. And he said, you just love God, and it's contagious, and I love how you worship. And I've asked a few people that sit around you, and they haven't said that you sing really badly. So I'd love for you to join the team. So I was like, well, right, okay, I will. So I was the backing singer that was like a bunny in headlights, you know, completely terrified to put the microphone anywhere near my mouth, didn't want to hear myself in the fold back, you know, and that's where it all started. Yeah, so I was probably about 20, I think. Yeah.
Where is it sort of, so 20 years ago, let's not talk age, but more
close,
than, maybe
close.
More than 20 years ago, we'll say.
24 years ago.
Yeah. You know, so that's you know, a good. It's strange because I was talking to Andrew about this earlier, that although I'm only 32, I've been part of worship ministry for 23 years, which is crazy.
Wow.
Isn't it? So from being a kid. So where is then that taking you since that moment 20 years ago?
We'll just say 20, that sounds good, a nice round number. It's a huge journey, really, Laura. I mean, it's one that's had lots of different facets to it. You know, God sort of made me realize who he made me and what my personality is through all of this. I was very, very shy, didn't really like to talk, didn't think I had anything that anyone would really want to listen to when I spoke, so I didn't really speak, got very embarrassed and went red, you know, in the face very easily, stuff like that. So being plonked up front on a platform was just not something that I was comfortable with, so I tried to sort of close my eyes and hope for the best, you know, when you're up there singing, make sure you learn the words, all of that. So God brought me on a massive journey of a confidence boost, showing me who I was in him and all of that. So I started off backing vocals, learning how to harmonise. I'd never harmonised before, and I learned literally on the job from whoever I was paired with. I would listen and I would learn, and I discovered that I had sort of a natural ear for an alto harmony, so that would be my thing. So then I got it in my head, I don't sing the melody, I just don't sing the tune. Therefore I ruled myself out from doing any leading whatsoever, and thought, great, this is my bag, I'm really, really comfortable. Got to a stage after a few years I was so comfortable doing backing harmonies, did loads of stuff, did a few events with the team, stuff like that. And then I met Richard and I moved to Southport. That was in 2003, and became the pastor's wife. And so I took a step back in worship ministry for a while, because we entered a church that was long established, got a huge worship team of about 40 odd people, and I just thought, okay, this is different. And it took a few years for me to get back into sort of being part of a team and that dynamic and everything. And then God just started to stretch me and develop me with some songwriting and the odd shot at leading the odd song within a set. And then it was, okay, I'm going to now make you go on the keyboard, George. Right, well, I'll do it, but I'm not doing any backing vocals. I can't sing and play at the same time because I've taught myself keys, as you know, Laura. And then where I am today, basically, is that I'm leading from the keys.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, the point of, you know, you saying about the guy up in Glasgow who sort of picked you out, you know, like we've been in services a couple of times together, stood next to you, and we've, you know, in worship together. And the point that he said about, you know, your worship being infectious, that's the main reason that I wanted to chat with you about this, because it's one of those things that's very rare, to have someone who visibly is, you can just see that they're worshiping Jesus, and that they love Jesus, and that's why they're there. That's why they want to worship. And when I'm stood next to you, I'm pointing to this side because that's where you were stood. You know, I just, it is true. You just carry such an incredible gift with worship, that it's almost like it just oozes out of you, this presence, and it's a beautiful thing. So be encouraged that it's amazing.
Wow.
So as part of you and Richard in Southport, you lead a Lakeside Church, which is an amazing church, and I'm very happy that I've been there a few times now. Obviously, as pastors during lockdown, you're having to change how you do church and change what it looks like. So a twofold question. From a worship point of view, how are you keeping your team sort of encouraged and creative in this time? And how are you able to sort of encourage your church during this time to still, you know, worship passionately?
Yeah, I mean, those questions are so relevant, aren't they, for anyone involved in worship right now in lockdown, or leading a church, or doing both like we are. I would say, from a preparation of heart and team, we have quite a large team and we aren't able to utilise all of them at the moment. Pre-lockdown, official lockdown, a few of the key leaders went down and we social distantly recorded enough sets. We just thought, let's just go down, let's just record a load of stuff that we can maybe use that'll last us for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And that'll give us a bit of breathing space to then think about how, when we can't go down to church. And so we did that. We stayed there till sort of nearly midnight and just recorded a load of stuff, bashed it all out, touched it up a little bit, did a bit of editing, and then we used that and cut and paste all that together with the message and notices, etc. And that lasted us for the first 5 weeks, I think. And then what we did, which is what we've been doing for the past 2 or 3 weeks now, we're now using worship from home. So we've got 3 people, myself included, that have got the audio equipment that we can actually do the mixing. So that's the issue. Not everyone in the team has got the audio interfaces to be able to do all of that. We have a wonderful guy, Dan, that pieces it all together, that is also multi-instrument talented and has got an amazing voice too, and he edits everything for us, which is great. So as a team, we're doing that. It's super stretching because, you know, we're having to use cameras to record what we're doing, separate audio equipment to record, mix the 2 together, marry it all together from the different team members and put it out. You know, it looks pretty funky when you're putting it out on a screen. You know, it looks a bit like Zoom, but it obviously isn't. So that, there's a practical preparation. And obviously as a team, we're not preparing spiritually together. So we're doing that separately. But I really feel that God's putting an anointing, because he honours what time and effort is put behind the scenes, and the purpose of that. It's not to promote ourselves. It's not to make ourselves look good. We're not interested in that. We're each preparing our hearts before we sort of record anything. And probably, well, certainly for me, I can't speak for the others, but I know they do, you know, that I'll be worshipping way before I press the record button. And so what really is getting recorded is just the overflow from what I've already done, what I've already been pouring my heart out at the piano to God that evening. And it's always late at night when the kids are in bed and the house is quiet, no interruptions. You know what that's like. And so, yeah, I guess then that leads into the question you've asked about encouraging members of our congregation and those that aren't officially members of our church but that are tuning in and watching online, because the numbers have increased because people are interested and are finding us, coming across our church online and maybe jumping in and out of what we're doing. We're just encouraging them. I'm learning to talk to the camera. I'm learning to not look at people in a congregation and communicate and encourage them to enter into worship Jesus. But I'm learning, and God's teaching me and stretching me and building my confidence to just get over myself, because none of us like to see or hear ourselves on the screen or whatever.
No.
And just think, right, okay, Lord, what are you doing? What are you trying, the other people on the other side of this camera, you know, what are you doing and saying in their hearts? And just really, the whole way we do church is just so different. And so I don't know if that answers the question or not, but that's really what we're doing. We're just trying, everything that we produce, we're constantly thinking about who's going to be watching, you know, not just churched people. So we're wanting whatever we put out there to encourage anyone, whether it's a believer or an unbeliever, to just look to God and explore and encounter him more and more. Really,
that's amazing. I mean, what would you sort of say to anybody who is struggling in this season, who is a creative or part of a worship team and doesn't have the equipment and doesn't have, you know, the outlet? What would you say to those people that are perhaps struggling creatively, who usually, as I'm saying in all these videos, our outlet usually is a Sunday morning, you know, or whenever our services would be. Yes, we've got that heart within us that wants to worship God all the time, and yes, we know that we can have the audience of one in our own personal devotional time, worship time at home, you know, as we do when we prepare ourselves to meet. But we don't have that outlet, do we, that the expression of our creativity comes out on a Sunday service, or whenever we get, you know, we're on a platform, and we don't have that right now. You know, and for those, as we've said, you know, that don't have the equipment or anything like that, what would you say to those who usually sort of feature in a worship community creatively and during a service? What would you say to them if they're struggling with that at this time?
Really, just to remember why you're worshiping and who you're worshiping, and that actually, we might all miss being part of that team and serving in that way, but actually it's all about worship and it's all about who we're worshiping. So I would just encourage people to just keep worshiping without worrying about anyone else seeing it. But if it is something that you feel stirred to share, what I would say is use what you've got. Get your phone, you know, you can do so much with a phone. If you feel that you've got something that you really want to share that's going to bless people, just shove your phone on record and let it capture what you're pouring out to God, whether you've got an instrument, whether it's a cappella, you know. There's a point to be made about putting what out there is excellent, but it's not about being perfect. It's just, it depends what your motive is. If your motive is you want to be seen and you want to, you know, have people see you and go, oh wow, aren't you amazing, then don't record anything. Don't put anything out there. But if your heart is to worship God and in some way hope that someone watching that, even if it's one person, will be impacted by it and would encounter God or explore and seek after God, then share it, record it and share it, for sure.
How have you felt? Because I know, like, in your journey you were saying that, you know, you were shy and, you know, you've had to overcome sort of your own sort of character steps, I suppose, you know, and you've even over these past few weeks you've done this recording, you've put stuff out there, you know. Has that been like an overcoming season for you as well? Has it been like a barrier that you've had to push through and God said, no, you've got to get on Facebook Live and show this?
Absolutely. I don't like putting myself out there for opinions to be made about myself. I'm sure that most people are like that. Some people might love that. I don't. And so I've constantly got this fight in my head of it's easy just to not put it out there, because then you're not inviting any opinion, good or bad, about yourself. But the fact of the matter is, the closer that you're walking with Jesus, you know who you are. And you have a confidence in the gift that he's given you and the call that he's got on your life. So if you are confident in that and secure in that, no matter what comes your way from a opinion perspective, it isn't going to matter, because you know who you are, whose you are, and why you're doing it. And so for me, I'm aware that I've got an enemy that's going to whisper lies and press the buttons in my life that I know are going to maybe stop me and hinder me from just stepping out and going for it. And I have to then determine what is truth and what is a lie. And so, yeah, and just check my heart and my motive.
Yeah.
I want to put something out there just because I think it sounds good and I want people to say, oh, that sounds good. I'm not interested in that at all. What I'm interested in is the Holy Spirit taking something that I've done, anointing it, and that ministering to somebody, and that they're going to see God in it, and that they're going to be impacted. And just a few things have sprung to mind now when I'm sharing. I've got a lot of friends you know, on Facebook that aren't Christians, they aren't believers at all to my knowledge, you know, lots of mums at school, stuff like that. And they've been commenting privately or publicly that they've been crying when they've been watching and listening. Not that I'm wanting people to cry, but all I'm saying is that's one of the ways the Holy Spirit ministers to us, and they may not even recognize that that's what it is, but something, you know, that's physically happening, and they're being impacted, and it's made them think about certain things. And so to me, even if that's for one person, it's worth it for sure, to get over my own insecurity. Yeah,
absolutely. It is amazing. I was going to ask you, you know, have you had sort of any feedback from people that have watched, you know, that's been, you know, I've had people that have, you know, people have responded saying your worship, you know, I've received healing during your worship, or that's really ministered to my heart, or anything like that, you know. And it's incredible to hear that, you know, the unsaved, you know, that you know, have mums, you know, at the school gate, you know, being able to sort of almost receive the presence of God without even knowing that's what's happening. That's amazing, you know, to know that's. Have you had any other sort of feedback from people?
So much encouraging, you know, from believers. It's different, isn't it? It's just real encouragement, and they recognize that there's the anointing of God, and they're grateful because it's allowed them to worship, help them worship, set them free from certain things depending what the song is, you know. I wrote a song a couple of years ago called Power in Your Name, and it's just about, I wrote it when I was going through right thick in the middle of a real season of darkness in my life, the most dark season in my life, of real anxiety and fear that had gripped me and physically manifested in my body that I couldn't breathe. Wow. And I wrote this song. It just came. I wish they all came like this. I was literally, quite often when I'm making tea, and a melody will come, or a chorus or a verse will come, and I'll just go to the piano. And as I was writing the verse, Laura, I heard the next verse. Then I heard the pre-chorus. Then I heard the chorus. Then I heard the bridge. And I just sat there, and I put it all together. And I was like, that has to be God, because there's no way I could write a song from start to finish in 25 minutes. And that song, I introduced it in church, and there were, you know, this is 2 years ago, and there were half a dozen people came to at the end crying, saying that they were going through, because it's very private and serious, you know, what I was going through. And so many people came and said that it's spoken to them so much that it's like giving them revelation. Well, I recorded this song relatively recently, just a rough recording, nothing spectacular. And again, just at home on the piano, put it out there. And again, the same kind of thing. So it's recognizing God in their own life and working in their own life. And it's all about the word for me. I would never write anything that wasn't based on the word and on that truth. And so when that is spoken out, it's always going to do what God intends it to do. So if it's one person out of 1,000 that hears it, 999, it might not affect them, but that one person, you know, it's going to affect. And that's what blesses me and encourages me to keep doing what I'm doing.
What's God saying to you right now? What Bible, what scriptures are really sort of standing out to you at the minute?
So much, because I'm a little bit the opposite, in that because my life's a whirlwind, when normal life resumes, it is so full on with work, with church, with school runs, with just fitting everything in, that I'm actually finding that I'm in the word more now. I hope I'm neglecting my kids. My head's in it, but I'm just finding that God has just opened up this whole desire to study deeper. And that is just, so every day I'm just, I don't know, I'm just feasting on it, and I'm just trying to think now of something that's really gonna sort of like be a standout thing. So much. I think just searching after him. I think, yeah, that's probably the main thing at the moment. You know, I know God. I know I'm known by God, and I have a close relationship with God, and I talk to him all day, every day. It's a continue. You know, the conversation doesn't stop. It's constant. But there are times when he wants me to go away, in my secret place and just seek after him more, and he's drawing me to do that more and more and more. And it's in that place that I have the encounter where, you know, something really deep will happen, and then I've got a response to that, and then everything overflows out of that place. And so it's kind of the opposite of what maybe I was expecting this period to be, because it's full on with homeschooling, with preparing for all the ministry stuff that we do, getting the dog walked, getting the shopping in, you know, all of that stuff. And yet I'm just finding that, really compared right back to the beginning 24 years ago when I had such a hunger for the word, that is really, really coming alive again, and I'm really grateful for it, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's such a strange season, isn't it? And we can't predict. It's almost like every day is the same, but every day is completely different too.
Yes.
You know, nothing. Although the rigmarole is the same, you know, each day is different. And there's certainly, I don't know if you guys are feeling it over in Southport, but there's certainly this emphasis on the pause, taking the rest. You know, and you're not the first person to even say to me today about, you know, really going after God, seeking God again. So that's amazing it's amazing to know that the voice of God is different across all nations, but he's speaking the one word, isn't he? You know, to take rest and feel secure in him and find him again.
Sure, yeah. And really speaking to me as well, just practically about, you know, the disciplines of daily life and routine, you know, because it's easy, because we've not really got anywhere to go, and we can choose how we want our day to go, and, you know, what order we put things in, to actually just have the routine. You know, George, get up before this time. George, get showered, get dressed, get breakfast, get reading the word, get, you know, set time frames for certain things, not ridiculously rigid, but, you know, come on, let's have some order and some structure to the day. Otherwise it can get a bit blurred and a bit lazy and a bit, you know, and probably halfway through the season of lockdown, you know, to this far, I probably hit a bit of a brick wall, and it was all a bit fuzzy and a bit, and I needed a bit of a shake, and God gave me that shake. And he said, you know, these boundaries and these disciplines and routines are there in place, this structure, because you thrive. I know I thrive in that kind of environment. If it's all a bit blurred and a bit mushy, I'm not great with that. And then that filters down, doesn't it, to your kids and all of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my last question, what do you feel God's saying to creatives and worship, to people involved in worship at large throughout the nation, and maybe even throughout the world? What do you feel God's saying to us as a worship community, as people who love to worship, pray, you know, the prophetic? What's God saying right now?
For me, and again, I was thinking about this, and I'm like, that's quite a massive question and quite a responsibility to answer it, isn't it? But I can only speak for me and what I feel God's speaking to my heart, and sort of where I'm placed. And I really feel God's just taken us back to the heart of worship, back to basics, stripping everything back. I feel that maybe as a Western church, we relied too much on environment. We've relied too much on the setting, the worship setting. I think that maybe we bordered, dare I say, on worship, collective worship. So worshipping of certain worship leaders and worship movements and worship songs. And I believe that, you know, that God is really blasting all that out of the water and really raising up just real, genuine worshippers. And I'm not saying that there aren't genuine worshippers in these movements. Of course there are, and they're amazing, and I love following them and being inspired by them, but they are not my They are not what I worship. Jesus is who I worship. And I think that's what he's doing. He's just saying, come on, you know, I've pulled all that away. Are you still happy to worship me with no instruments? Are you still happy to come and worship me? And will you still gain that same encounter, you know, without all the bells and whistles and smoke machines? You know, are you prepared to just be on your knees and worship me? No one else see, you know, not even press the record button on your phone to capture it, you know, in case a fab new melody comes out or whatever. Are you prepared just in the secret place to just worship me and seek me? And I think it's a massive challenge to anyone involved in worship ministry, because you can get so used to being in that flow of the next meeting, preparing for the next event, you know, and what your part is in that. But we can all be guilty of losing our focus a little bit.
Absolutely. So right. You know, it's something that I'm feeling. I'm challenged by massively right now. You know, in the routine and structure of a day. You know, to really seek God for myself rather than for the next service or the next band meeting or the next gathering of this or gathering of that. Yeah, it's amazing and I love it. Fantastic. I really appreciate this. This is so good. Amazing. So, yeah, thank you.